Hey chicks, let's chat. So it's Mother's Day weekend. Actually, I am headed to a Mother's Day tea. I'm going to get my grandma and my auntie. So that's the reason for the hat. Nevertheless, like I said, it is Mother's Day weekend, and I wanted to have a little conversation about that. The good stuff about Mother's Day, it goes without saying, you have a lot of wonderful mothers out here. You have a lot of wonderful daughters who then later become wonderful mothers. And that's the good part about it. And we should celebrate mothers and motherhood and good relationships, all that good stuff. But that's the stuff that goes without saying. My interest is the stuff that goes on and it doesn't get tapped into a lot, like mothers that don't have good relationships with their daughters, mothers who are mothers at heart, but they never got a chance to conceive for various reasons. So those are kind of things I want to tap into, and that's not to dim the good part about Mother's Day. It's not to dim that light whatsoever, but it's to broaden the light, if you will, because there's so many different aspects to motherhood. But a lot of times we only think about certain things when we think about it, and a lot of times, when we celebrate Mother's Day, this, that, or the third, sending out a big Mother's Day text, you don't even know that you have a homegirl or an auntie or, an ex-teacher or something that Mother's Day hit different for them. They always wanted kids, and for whatever reason, God didn't see fit for them to conceive, right? And sometimes most of the times that's a hard pill to swallow for a woman, because society puts a lot of pressure on women to reproduce, right? And when society putting that pressure on women to reproduce, sometimes society get it wrong, right? And I'm not saying that you're not supposed to be reproducing, because I absolutely think we're supposed to be reproducing. So when I say society get it wrong, I mean, I feel like they get it wrong with how they go about expecting women to reproduce. They want women to grow all the way up out of their teenage years, don't have any kids, don't get married, go to college, get your master's, perhaps even get a doctorate. You know what age frame that puts you in by the time society wants you to start looking for a mate and getting ready to reproduce? Your most fertile years have already passed. So when I say that sometimes society gets some things wrong, that's what I mean. Because if I have to sit and really look at a lot of things, most of the women that I know who did not conceive and later wish they did, they went to college. They went to college and they was told, do X, Y, and Z first. Think about all that other stuff last. And then by that time, you in your late 20s, early 30s, you might want to have a little fun. Boom, boom. By the time you really say, hey, okay, it's time, let me see what's what, guess what? You got some troubles conceiving. Those are the things about for everybody. That's for the men, the daddies, everybody that's telling their daughters to wait. Because you got all your life, you have this, you have that. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I saying, yeah, all the teenagers, go have kids. Come on, you would have to be crazy if you think I'm sitting here saying that, because that is not the message that I'm conveying. So please don't twist my words. Don't get in my comments with that foolishness, because I haven't got to the point yet where I'm not going to friendly fire off on you, as one of my commenters said, right? But what I am saying is that as a society, we have to start re-looking at some of the standards that we are teaching and that we have taught. Because the reality is that our bodies are ready to reproduce at younger ages, but everybody tells you as a younger woman to hold off on that, not knowing what your body is going to be capable of doing later on, right? So then it takes me back to the conversation what I had last week when I was talking about chemicals, perms, etc. Okay, now we have now come to find out that a lot of the perms that we were using has caused reproduction issues, right? Yeah. For people who don't know, for the guys who may not be keeping up with it, a lot of the perms that we were getting as little girls, they got a class action suit out right now because they found out that there were chemicals in those perms that later on caused women to have uterine cancer, uterine fibroids, and problems with fertility. Go figure. Right? So I said that to say, a lot of times, parents will push certain things off on their daughters. I have seen parents make their daughters get abortions, because they didn't want to take on their responsibility of raising their daughter's child at a young age when they probably were still raising their own kids. Can I understand that? Absolutely, I can understand a parent already struggling, not wanting to take on another burden. Sure, I can understand that. Am I co-signing it? Nope. Am I not co-signing it? Nope. Like, every family makes their own decisions. I understand that. I'm just talking about some of the scenarios, right? A lot of times, that's what has happened in life. Parents have made their daughters get abortions, because they didn't want to take on that burden. They didn't want to have to help. Maybe they felt they could not help, right? Later on, that daughter goes to try to conceive. She can't conceive, right? So you end up with a society of a lot of women that they don't look at Mother's Day in the same way, because Mother's Day for them is not that happy, right? Because they look at all the things, they looking back over their life and wishing they would have made different decisions. Some women are very successful and they still looking back saying, hey, you know what? I probably should have took some time to fit a baby into my schedule. I probably should have took some time to, fit a husband or a marriage, etc. and so forth into my schedule, because at the end of the day, I don't think, most of the time for a lot of women, the desire is not to be a single mom, right? Sometimes it just happens like that. But these days and times, women don't mind going to, the fertility clinic and doing what they do to have a baby on their own, because they have that type of void, and they really need the void filled, right? Now, every woman doesn't desire to have kids. Let me just say that every woman doesn't have that same strong desire as other women do to have children. It's just not there. You have a lot of moms who had kids last thing they know how to do is nurture. And that should be one of the first things you know how to do is nurture. Right? So when I say society gets it wrong sometimes, those are the ways in which I mean. They tell you to push this back, push that back. And one reason why you see so many people talking about relationship issues online now is because relationships basically being pushed to the back burner, right? That's something you think about and you do later on when you settle down. You da-da-da-da-da. But the part they don't tell you is how hard it is to find a partner that matches you when you've waited so long in life to do everything, right? It's a reason why some of the relationships that started with your great-grandparents and they were older, they were much younger, but they were able to live their whole life together. Why? Because they came together when they was young. So they was able to actually grow and gel and become one, right? It's hard when you in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, and you trying to become one with somebody. You done already developed into your own person, and you really don't want to, have to change too much. So then you acquiesce to what somebody else wants, and then you're miserable now. So as nurturers and mothers, etc., so forth, we might want to start rethinking that narrative of telling our daughters to wait for this, wait for that, wait for this, wait for that. Wait, you don't know what life presents. It's going to present to her or to her body. You never know. And I think a lot of times you ain't even thinking about that. A lot of parents ain't even thinking about that when they saying wait for this, wait for that. Daddy's telling their daughters wait for this, wait for that. Well, Dad, guess what? You will never have to worry about fibroids. You will never have to worry about that. Right? So when you pushing everything, pushing it back, we just have to be mindful that sometimes you can be pushing stuff back so far that you push it totally out of that person's life, that it's never going to happen for them, right? And so I feel like, as parents, we got to really start reconsidering some things, reconsidering the narrative. When you send your daughter to college, and I might get a lot of backlash for this, but when you send your daughter to college, she should be looking for something more than just a degree. You hear me? She's in the prime of her life. She's as fine as she ever gonna be. She's ambitious, and she's surrounded by other like-minded individuals. She should be there not only to summa cum laude, but she should be there to thank you, Lord, for this husband that I done found on this campus. Yeah. I absolutely believe that, right? I absolutely believe that. We should have them considering other things when they're in their early adulthoods. I remember a girl told me, it was a white girl, she told me when I was at FAU, I was in class, but I thought she was crazy. She told me that she did not come to school to get a degree. She told me she came to school only to get a husband. I thought she was the dumbest person in the world. Now, at my age, she was right. Somebody had done put some good in the ear, right? And maybe it was somebody who knew the struggle. Maybe it was somebody who already knew, like, baby, listen, this is your time to think about it. You can walk and chew bubblegum. You can go to school, focus on this, and when you at them school parties, have more than a one-night stand on your mind. Yeah, you can do both. Right? So I really wanted to tap into the fact that, you know, it's a lot of situations out there like that for whatever reason. You know, it's not just about people who didn't go to college, who went to college, etc. and so forth. Because you have plenty of women that just are not able to conceive for different reasons, right? And I want to tap into that too, because we don't realize how fibroids really affect reproduction. We don't understand how health issues really affect reproduction issues. But I really want to say this too, because as women, we're natural. We're supposed to be natural nurturers. Everybody doesn't have it, but a lot of women are natural nurturers, right? And let me say this to the women who have never conceived what you wanted to. And those are conversations that's most hard sometimes to have. You know, I see people be in tears when it comes to talking about, you know, the fact that they can't have kids or that they're struggling so hard to have them. You know, and if you have friends that are childless, like on Mother's Day, tap in with them, right? A lot of people think that because, you know, you may not have physically conceived a child, that you ain't even good for Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day, when the reality is that some women may not have conceived children, but they have mothered many children. They have mothered so many children. Why? Because they have a nurturing spirit. The same way you have many women who have conceived children but nurtured or raised none of them. About it, and people will make you feel a certain way about not being able to conceive, because that's the first thing people like to tell you. Oh, you don't have no kids, that's why you don't have no kids, you know, they take cheap shots at you in that way, right? Of course, meant to hurt you. I used to hear my mama do it to my auntie all the time, and when I used to hear my mama do that to my auntie, I didn't understand how that, I didn't really get it. Like, I understood, like, she picking, they jigging at each other, but it hit different when I got in those shoes, and when I wanted to conceive and had trouble, it hit different. And I remember all them times my mama was messing with my auntie, and then it made me think, like, dang, that probably really bothered my auntie, because my auntie, unlike me, she was really wanting to have kids. You know, if I'm honest, I have to say that there was two reasons that I wanted to have kids, right? One came later in life. I wanted to have a child before my mom died, right? So that was the second time I was actively trying, and the first time I was actively trying, I really wanted a man more than I wanted the kid. I would have took the kid, but I showed up wanted the man. You hear me? And see, those are things that we won't really say, but I say it because it's the truth. A lot of times we want the man, but we end up with the kid. In my case, I ain't end up with neither. We had a whole lot of fun though. And it was a lot of love, and that's why I wanted a kid, because I always said I wanted my child. Number one, I did want to be married before I had a kid, right? But if I had a kid and I wasn't married, I wanted my child to be made in love and not out of lust, right? So those were always things that weighed heavy on me. Like, so I definitely wasn't the person that was showing up trying to get no kids. Like, that one, because I was the person that was trying to have a successful life, right? So I was driven by other things. So in my mind, hey, all of that'll come later. You know what I'm saying? And so when I had the opportunity to have a child that I was not planning on having, and when I did actually get pregnant, I didn't want it because I had other plans for my life. So I made some decisions, right? And not even knowing that later on I would, had I known that, okay, this is your one opportunity to have a kid, you're not going to be able to conceive later on. Had I known that, maybe I would have made different decisions. I can't say for 100% matter of fact that I would have made a different decision, but it was a good life lesson because it just, it just confirms the fact that you never know what life is going to bring. So you can't push everything on back burners. Sometimes your opportunity comes once in that lifetime. So I know I kind of veered off, but it all ties back into Mother's Day, and I could have 10 conversations about the different topics that I done went over, but I really, like I said in the beginning, I just wanted to tap in and talk about the kind of like the taboo issues of Mother's Day without taking away from the fact that it is Mother's Day weekend, and it is to be celebrated, and it is to be respected, and in its own, in its own right. Is like, mothers make so many sacrifices. And when I say mothers, I'm not just talking about the people that birthed you. I'm talking about everybody that mothers own children, because you have a lot of teachers who they don't have children, but they take care of your children, right? And then Teachers Week come and you don't send them nothing. You don't send now gift to that school, and them women deal with your children every day. And I know as a culture we did not necessarily come up, because my mama never sent me with the school for Teachers Appreciation Week, But as we have gotten older, and some things that we learn, like, those teachers go through a lot. You absolutely should be sending gift cards, gifts, etc. So you absolutely should be sending something to that school, to them teachers who are nurturing, raising, speaking life, guiding, having to deal with their behaviors. You absolutely should be sending something in to the school during Teachers Appreciation Week, because while you at work or home or whatever it is that you're doing, those teachers are the ones mothering your children. They are. They're teaching, they're educating, they're enlightening, they're nurturing your children through the educational process, right? Now, the situations where you have moms and children who don't get along, that's another sore spot for mothers on Mother's Day. You have children who are not talking to their mothers who are not talking to their kids. And some people wanted to stay like that. And in some situations, hey, it may just be best that it stays like that because the situation is so toxic. But that's not how it was designed to be, But life happens. But let me just kind of maybe wrap up on this note right here. ability for you to work some things out with your mom or with your daughters. And I understand that it's a hard thing to humble yourself sometimes, especially when, yeah, you was wrong, but maybe they were wronger. Or you feel like you're the adult and they need to humble themselves and respect you as the parent, right? Ain't none of those things gonna matter when one of y'all dead, though. What is it gonna matter who apologized first? Right? Now, that is a conversation for people who desire to have a relationship in your heart of hearts. I ain't talking about you just pretending like you don't miss your mom or you don't miss your daughter, right? I'm talking about you know you really do, and you really want to be in that relationship. You can't make people want to deal with you, but you can clear the air on your behalf, right? You can write, text, call. You can send the apology that you need to send. So that things can be well on your end, right? So that's all I'm saying is, like, if it's a situation, a circumstance with your mom or your daughter that you need to mend, it's all right to be the first person to make the apology and to say, hey, I was wrong for this, I was wrong for that. Moms, just because y'all, I provided this, they daddy didn't do nothing, he wasn't nowhere around, and they love the ground he walk on. Listen, Mom, you got to get over that. They may love their daddy that did nothing for them. They supposed to love their daddy. That don't take away from the fact that you have raised them and you have did your big one in their life. It does not take away from that. But a lot of times moms get in their feelings and they only want the kids to love and praise and respect them. That's not how life works all the time. Two people made that kid. It's always all right for that kid to love their other parent. And y'all have to be willing to accept that and not be so selfish about that. It's enough love to go around. Yes, you did everything. Salute, Mom. You did everything. He did nothing. Okay, we understand that. That has been established. But to hold a grudge against that child for loving their dad, for respecting their dad, you wrong for that. You wrong for that. And for mistreating that child when they was coming up. You was wrong for that. And sometimes moms do it and don't even know that they doing that. And when the child try to bring it to their attention, oh, they disrespectful. They're not disrespectful because they're telling you about their feelings. No, they're not. Now, they may be doing it in a disrespectful way. Yes, you could be wrong as a child in your delivery to your parents when you're trying to explain something to them. But just because you're explaining how you feel to your parents, that is not disrespect parents, old school parents, new school parents. No. There should be a safe space for your children to explain to you, especially your grown children, to explain to you how they're feeling about something. Sometimes it's just simple misunderstandings that could easily be fixed with a simple listening ear, an apology, and some understanding. Right? So not just because it's Mother's Day, but just because it's the right thing. You know, if you have something, a situation or a circumstance that you can fix with your mother, your daughter, mothers, you may need to fix some situations with your sons, with your daughter-in-laws. He your son, he not your man. And when he's wrong, he's wrong. When he wrong, simple. It's that. Sometimes women forget that they're a woman first. and they let their man child just run amok and don't want to check them because you don't like the girl, you don't like the wife, or you don't like the girlfriend or the baby mama or whoever. So you overlook what your son do, and always have something to say about the female. Well, guess what? She could be wrong, she could be dead wrong, but he could be wrong too. And people like to say, well, you don't have any kids, so you can't say. Listen, a lot of times people that don't have no kids see exactly where y'all getting it wrong at. Cause they could stand back and see, yeah, you doing that, yeah, that ain't, yeah, no. I done heard that so much. I done heard that so much. See, you don't really have kids, so you can't really say about, because I don't have kids, you think that means that I can't tell you that you're talking to her wrong. You're creating a bad situation for her. She's gonna expect that men cuss her out and talk to her crazy because her dad is doing it. That's common sense, baby. I don't have to have a kid for that. And it's so many more scenarios like that. So don't think that a person can't, because what you have to understand is just as sure as I have a womb, I was blessed. I was blessed to have the capacity to be a nurturer and to take care of kids, whether I have physically gave birth to one or not. Understand me? I'm mothering and nurturing right now as I speak, to grown and young alike, because that's the gift that I have, to do that, to bring light, to share what's been given to me. Now, am I right about everything? Nobody live in this world. I make mistakes. I come up short, fall short. I'm going to say some things you don't agree with. I'm going to stand on some things you absolutely don't agree with. All of that, and that's fine. Because that's what we all living and learning from each other. We all hopefully living and learning and trying to get it right. Right? So, with all that said, it's a plethora of things to pick apart. But hopefully, you know, if you know somebody that this conversation could benefit, you know, whether it's a childless mother this Mother's Day, whether it's a situation with a parent that needs to be mended, with a mom that needs to be mended. Some of these moms just need to be hugged. Yes, you weren't the best mom, but you still are a mom, right? And some things you can't redo, but you can let them know that you understand you didn't get it right, and you wish you could have gotten it right. You wish you had the capacity to have gotten it right. Some moms can't be good moms because they didn't have good moms. Some moms don't have the tools or the wherewithal to deal with some things that comes with children. Sometimes moms just don't have the tools to deal with certain behavior problems, certain mental health problems. Sometimes they just don't have the wherewithal. People always say a book didn't come with it. No, a book didn't come with it. So sometimes you're going to miss the mark. Sometimes parents are going to get it wrong. And as children, it's hard for us to wrap our head around the fact that we got to give them space to get it wrong. Like, you're not going to be, maybe you're not always going to be the perfect child. There are some kids that they are wonderful, loving, just a joy to have. And then you have a lot of them that they are just not joys to have, and they just make me okay with not having any. And that's the truth of the matter. You're not always a great adult child or underage child. You're not always a joy to have. You're not. And I'm not going to tell you that you are, because I would be lying to you. Sometimes we as children, adult children, underage children, we get it wrong. We cause stress. We cause financial issues. We cause mental health issues. We get it wrong. we don't do right by our parents sometimes. We miss the mark. Yes, there are people. Yes, there are children who do that. Yes. So parents, you got to give us some grace too. We ain't come with a book on how to be the perfect children either, right? So with all that said, I done finally got to my grandma's house. I done drove around the neighborhood a couple times just so I could finish this video. But y'all have a happy Mother's Day and look at it from a whole different perspective now, hopefully. Enjoy your Mother's Day weekend. Enjoy your mothers, grandmothers, aunties, sisters, cousins while they're here. Make good memories with them so that when they're gone, you can still enjoy the fact that you had them, and you don't have to be so sad about them going because you had such a wonderful time with them when they was here. Happy Mother's Day, y'all.